अर्षद भाई कब तक है? 10 मिनट। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह वकफ़ा वस्सलामुन अला इबादिही अल्लज़ीना इस्तफ़ा अम्मा बअद फ़अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम फ़मन कान यर्जू लिक़ाअ रब्बिही फ़लयअमल अमलन सालिhan वला युशरिक बिइबादति रब्बिही अहदा وقال تعالى وما أمروا إلا ليعبدوا الله مخلصين له الدين وقال تعالى من كان يريد العاجلة عجلنا له فيها ما نشاء لمن نريد ثم جعلنا له جهنم يصلاها مذموما مدحورا ومن أراد الآخرة وسعى له سعيها وهو مؤمن فأولئك كان سعيهم مشكورا. أما بعد, brothers and sisters in Islam, Alhamdulillah, through the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has enabled us to establish our ibadat al-Jumu'at, and this is a blessing of Allah that we are once again in the masjid, and whatever the situation may be, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and keep us free from all types of diseases and sicknesses, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us steadfast in our faith, in our belief, and make us sincere to do all of our deeds for His sake alone. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Today, inshallah, we will talk about an important aspect of the deen, which is sincerity, being loyal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a part of that is doing good deeds by concealing them. And what we mean by that is there are certain deeds in the Sharia that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made obligatory upon us, upon the community, to come out and be together in, like Imam, like the Jama'ah, the congregational prayers, etc., from the fara'id of Islam and the wajibat of Islam, which should be done to remind one another. But in aspects of a very important part of our deen is concealing these when we do them, and not showing off and not being ostentatious in doing those deeds. And we understand its importance in today's khutbah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us in Surah Al-Isra, where He says, whoever desires this fleeting world alone, meaning that they are only doing their deeds for this dunya, and they don't have belief in the akhirah, then we hasten in whatever we please to whomever we will. In other words, they will only get what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to give them, what is pleasing to Him, regardless if they are obedient to Him or not. Whatever is written for that person of the dunya, they will get that portion. And so it's not up to them, but still it's upon the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the irada, intention of Allah, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, for such a person, doing only amal for this dunya, what will happen? That we destine them for the hellfire, where they will burn, condemned. Condemned for what reason? Because they chose the world, and they forgot about the akhirah, and rejected. Madni However, the one who intends the next life and desires and opts to be an intelligent and faithful servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for such a person who desires the hereafter, and he struggles for it accordingly, in his a'mal, in his deeds, the purity and the sincerity of those deeds is something that he works upon constantly and consistently, which is one of the essential fundamentals of our deen. Ikhlas, sincerity, loyalty, and doing things only for the sake of Allah, outside of the eyes of people. And so, when they strive for such a person, his striving will be much appreciated. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is shakur. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows what you are doing from concealing your deeds from the people, and He knows the sincerity of why you're doing it. And therefore, He will reward you, and that's much, much appreciated by Him. And appreciation will then come in the form of obviously rewarding those people with reward that is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give from His treasure. In a hadith narrated by Zubayr ibn al-Awwam radiallahu anhu, he says, من استطاع منكم أن يكون له خبأ من عمل الصالح فليفعل. He said that whoever among you is able to conceal righteous deeds, to conceal and hide their good deeds, then they should do so. This word khabi'ah or khab'ah, it is defined by that action العمل المخبأ الذي لا يراه الناس. That action that the people, they are not seeing. In other words, he's not doing it with the riyah. He's not doing it by showing off to others. He's concealing that deed, which is in aspects of worship, true worship to Allah. And getting close and qurbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes with such deeds. And this is something that each and every one of us, as a member of the community, has to remind others of constantly. Because what ruins our actions and deeds is more important to stay away from that than doing abundant deeds. Because what ruins our deeds and makes them zero and takes them away is doing things for others. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we know, we are not supposed to associate partners. That's the greatest form of sin in this world. Associating anything with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then how come we fetch our reward from other people? How come we need validation of others because we are doing such and such action and such deeds? Accreditation is not needed from other people. It's only needed from the one who can give you the reward and the full compensation of it, who can bestow you with an unlimited reward that is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, those who will do things for others, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask them on the day of judgment, go and collect your reward from so and so because you did it for them. This is a disaster. This is one of the things to ruin ourselves. And we constantly do it. We constantly look for likes, and we constantly are looking for others to validate our deeds. How come? This is a sickness, a disease, which the Sahaba, Ridwanullahi ta'ala, they learned from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. كان الصحابة رضوان الله يحرصون على إصداء النصيحة للناس وتعاليم طرق النجاة من الله وإخلاص أعمال الله سبحانه. They constantly were looking to remind others and give nasiha to others to do things only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this was among their regular teachings every single day. And this is why in this athar of Zubayr ibn Awwam radiallahu anhu, and the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he told us that we should not be ostentatious in our deeds, and rather we should keep them in store for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward us purely. And that's it. And similarly, what does this kind of mean for us to do in aspects of our life? There are many places we can study. Just to give some examples. The Prophet ﷺ, he told us that the prayer that is in the night is afdal, more superior than the prayer in the day. Talking about nawafil. Why? Because it's not in the sight of others. We're doing it in the middle of the night, in the middle of darkness, when nobody is seeing us except Allah. And therefore, to offer such prayers, to fast and not even let your family know that you are fasting, to give sadaqah in such a way as it comes in hadith about those people who will be one of them under the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, under His protection, under His care, being under His responsibility, being under His shade on the day of judgment, when there will be no shade except the shade of the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then to be under there is a great privilege. One of those people, a rajul, will be a person, ذكر الله خاليا ففاضت عيناه. He will be that person who is remembering Allah subhanahu, not in front of people, in isolation, khaliyan. What happened? He's crying for the sake of Allah, shedding his tears, making tawbah, only in front of wahdahu la sharika lahu. And similarly, a rajul دعته امرأة ذات منصب وجمال ذات منصب وجمال. A woman calling him of position, rank and honor and beauty, calling him to do an evil act. Yet, what does he say? قال إني أخاف الله. Similarly, a man who spends in the path of Allah to the extent that when he spends his right hand when he gives, his left hand does not know what his right hand has given. He is given it in secrecy. Similarly, those people who look out for the forgotten and downtrodden people in the community, who nobody remembers, those people who are overlooked by society, those people who are elderly and in need, those people who are widows, those people who are orphans, they look after their needs and they fulfill them. It comes about Zayn al-Abidin, Ali ibn Hassan radiallahu anhu, that he used to, in Medina, take care of the orphans, the widows. He would carry bags of flour on his own shoulders and give it to them in the middle, in the early pre-dawn hours. And only when he passed away, when the orphans and the widows started to see something less and no commitment to that anymore, they then understood that this was the act of who else than Ali ibn Abidin. And such acts of our khulafa, of them who looked after the needs of the elderly, who looked after the needs of those people who are not looked after in our communities. How many times do we do those actions? The problem is we may do them, but then later on, when we go to our communities, when we go to our members of the community, they start to do things which are ostentatious. They ask for supplies, for example. I came to so-and-so in the community and I helped them out. Do we have any other resources? In other words, you're indirectly saying that I'm helping them. There's no need for it. Simple thing is to keep it hidden, to keep it to yourself. What are you doing it for? It doesn't mean that we are saying every single aspect of that could be wrong. There may be a need for it. But how many ways do we justify it in that? Allah really knows your intention. He knows your motive. He knows deep down inside who you're doing it for. Alhamdulillah, if it's for Allah, then very good. But if it's not, then remember, it's just leveled down and we put our a'mal into ruin. We won't get any credit for that. We're looking for validation of others, but we're not getting credit for it. And so be careful in our justification of doing good deeds. And similarly, many other deeds have been mentioned in the ahadith. It is also mentioned by our ulama who explain that, in showing off and being ostentatious, many times we will do things, we will have motives that are basically looking to inform others of it. And again, if we are doing that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows better. And we're seeing that just because that time taken off and you are kind of justifying it by telling your fellow employees or by smiling or by expecting that they ask what was the reason behind this. Right? Many times we do things but we have to then tell them. And sometimes we even look for validation and accreditation many times. So be very wary of these things. These are those things that will totally get rid of our deeds. So we need to be careful. We need to do things only for the sake of Allah. And this type of action, this type of deed is becoming less and less. We're seeing in our societies more and more people are doing things for show. They will email, they will send texts, they will go on social media, and all of a sudden they'll become, oh yeah, we have it in our kalam. We indirectly say it so much. When people perform their deeds, oh yeah, when I went for my third Hajj, I remember this as well. Why do you even have to say that in the first place? These are those things which totally destroy our motives, our intentions. Even in al-a'malu bin-niyyat. Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam clearly told us, your intentions, your deeds are based upon your intentions. If they're good, you'll get good deeds and good reward for that. If they're not, then the opposite. And they can be questioned, interrogated on the day of judgment. Alayhi billah. And Allah will open up all of those secret things that we did. But, just as one of the Sahaba was saying, when we hide and do sins, we know what we did, isn't it? Well, combat that, go against that, oppose that. Now hide and do good deeds to get rid of those. This is the actions that we have to start doing. But we become so habitual in doing them, we don't even think about that anymore. And it's the dua from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as he taught, and we'll finish with this. Allahumma tahhir qalbi min al-nifaq. He made this dua that, oh Allah, purify my heart from all types of hypocrisy. That is the worst thing, that we cover up our disbelief and the manifestation of being among the believers. And that especially doing things not for the sake of Allah is one of the highest forms of that. Similarly, وَعَمَلِي وَالْرِيَاءِ. Ya Allah, protect and purify my deeds from showing off, from doing them for others. وَفَرْجِي مِنَ الزِّنَا. And my private parts from committing acts of zina. وَلِسَانِي مِنَ الْكَذِبِ. And my tongue from any types of lie. Lying and forging things, making up things. These things, always, brothers and sisters, speak the truth. If you can't speak the truth, then don't lie, at least at a minimum. Similarly, وَعَيْنِي الْخِيَانَةِ. And protect my eyes from seeing things that I'm not supposed to look at. فَإِنَّكَ تَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. You know the khiyana, the breaching of the eyes, what I was supposed to not look at, but I'm looking at. And you know what's in the heart from motives and intentions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purify us and give us tawfiq to do a'mal with only the intention of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanallah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا
اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واخبر بالخبر محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. آمين يا رب العالمين. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا. فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدع اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين. فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون الذين هم يراءون ويمنعون الماعون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر.
الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This Sunday, October 31st, the weather is forecasted to be very nice, not rainy like today. However, of course, we don't want any of the children or grandchildren in this community to be outside on the streets in the evening. So that's why we have set up a very nice and special program here this Sunday, starting at 4:45 p.m., going on past Maghrib Salah. It will be our fall social. We have several activities for different age groups, as well as a talk by Adil, and free pizza and cakes and other refreshments for all the children and the parents. So we want to see everyone here with their children, with their entire family members, this Sunday at 4:45 p.m. Inshallah, I promise you the children will have a great time. Also a reminder that we have our Friday night halakas tonight starting at 6:30 p.m. All 4 halakas are going on indoor for the entire family. Inshallah, Mulana Adil will be giving the brothers halakah, Sister Asma will be giving the sisters halakah, Mulana Javier will be giving the English upstairs, the basement, and Brother Rashid will do the kids story time. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
على خلق عظيم صدق الله العظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Respected listeners, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I recited in front of you a verse from Surah Al-Qalam in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and says that, and truly you are on an exalted standard of character. So, what did he do that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said this? Well, let's see the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the midst of the extreme injustice and oppression that prevailed throughout the societies of all parts of the world, one man stood up and he proclaimed, Innama bu'ithtu yutammimu makarim al-akhlaq. Verily I have been sent to perfect the most noble behavior among human beings. So if you look and study the life of the Prophet ﷺ, is that better? You will find that he bore all kinds of personal insults and aggravations without any complaint. And in fact, he would even be concerned in the favor of people who treated him badly. And this is how he was with Muslims, non-Muslim, everybody. That he never took any grudge, never reacted to any bad treatment to him himself. But what about the rest of society? So how did he transform the society based on this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ? So he did not invite specialists from abroad to work with the people who nobody wanted to rule over. Rather, he worked with those same people. He spent his entire self, his wahi, the Quran, and his lifestyle, his every mannerism, everything he transferred to the students. And the effect was spectacular. Within a span of 23 years, the people who were misguided themselves became the guides to humanity, and they became the best human beings after the Anbiya alayhi salam. As the scholars write that they left the comforts of their homes and families and the pleasure of being in Medina, the city of the Prophet ﷺ that they loved so much, and traveled all through the world carrying that burning concern for the guidance of humanity. And wherever they went, the store of their knowledge and their actions transformed the world. And they were the blessed Sahaba. And as the Prophet ﷺ said, Ashabi kan nujum ihtadaytum. My companions are like the stars. Anyone you follow, you will be rightly guided. So this was the transformation. At times we think that we may need to borrow from others to learn how to behave in society. But this is a mistake, because when Rasulullah said that I have been sent to perfect the best human behavior, then that scale is the top. There's nothing that can reach it. And therefore,
They're just saying they can't hear. I'm sorry. You can make it over this one.
In a hadith, Rasulullah says, it's a very interesting hadith. Al-Muslim alladhi yukhalitu an-nas ويصبر على أذاهم أفضل من المسلم الذي لا يخالط الناس ولا يصبر على أذاهم. A Muslim who mixes with the people and is patient when he faces hardships caused by them, that is, he does not react to them or takes revenge, is better than the Muslim who shies away from the people and so does not need to bear hardships from them. So Rasulullah ﷺ taught us that practicing good akhlaq while meeting with people is a part of our deen. Now, because of time, I'm not going to give the example. I want to give the example of Abdullah ibn Abbas anhu, how he left his i'tikaf to help somebody who needed help. But let's move to the other example. So, man is Allah's Khalifa, and that is why Allah said in the Quran, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. Behold, your Lord said to the angels, I will create my ambassador on earth. So Khalifa means representative or ambassador. So Allah subhanahu uses human beings to fulfill their needs, which Allah promises to all the creation. And those who are selected by Allah to be His Khalifa, and they get tremendous honor. And of course you'll find that those people who are acting like the Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are the most beneficial to humanity. That's why you find all the Anbiya alayhi salam who were always concerned for the benefit of the people that they were sent to guide. And the person who is selected as Khalifa to fulfill the promise that Allah has made to creation, they will never be concerned about somebody's bad behavior if they do something good to them, and the return is not good. They don't care about that, because the purpose is to fulfill the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a very beautiful hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. الخلق علي الله الخلق علي الله فحب الخلق إلى الله من يحسن إلى عياله. All creation is the family of Allah. So the one who is nearest to Allah of His servants is the one who is good to his family. That is why we see that the condition of the Anbiya alayhi salam, that they were the most merciful and beneficial to humanity. If you look at the generosity of the Prophet ﷺ, it was a habit that he would not touch anything. When he knew somebody is in need of it, he would not touch it. He would make sure that the person who needs it gets it. That's why many times he would be hungry. He would have food in the house for many days. I have a very beautiful example that in the early days of Hijrah, this person, a Sahabi, he relates that I came to Medina Munawwara and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made me his house guest. He shared his place of residence with him. He had a goat and he explained to the guests that, look, I milk the goat and I get 1 glass or whatever measurement that was per day. So I shared with you, we'll share half. So that was the arrangement. Now this Sahabi, he comes home after Isha and he goes and drinks half the milk. And then he is waiting and he wonders the Prophet has not come yet, so he drinks everything. So now there's nothing left of the Prophet. Now he comes home and he says, Assalamu alaikum. And there the Sahabi mentioned that the Prophet's habit when he came in to his home was that the one who is awake can hear him, but the one who is asleep is not disturbed. And we should use this in our homes also and in the masjid also. Everywhere you try to be soft and so follow the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anyway, and then he went straight to the glass and saw it was empty, and there was nothing in the house to eat. So he made dua. Now this Sahabi said, I was very scared. What kind of dua he's going to give against me? Instead he made this dua. Allahumma at'im man at'amani wasqim man saqani. Oh Allah, feed the one who fed me and give to drink to the one who gave me to drink. He said, I love this dua and I wish that I could get some dua from the Prophet ﷺ for me. But what can I do? I drank all the milk. So he decided to go out and he took the goat and he slaughtered the goat that the Prophet ﷺ had. He prepared something and then he brought it and served it to the Prophet. He ate a little bit and then he said, where did you get this from? He said, Ya Rasulullah, I slaughtered your goat. He said, why did you do that? He said, because I wanted to hear the beautiful dua in my favor. How would somebody respond to this? That's the only source of food. So he smiled at him and made dua for him. That was his response. One night Rasulullah left Juwayriyah radiallahu anhu, her apartment, and in order to take care of bathroom needs. And when he returned, the door was locked. So he knocked and then she said, go to one of your wives that you went to visit. He said, I just went for my needs. She wouldn't listen. Then he said, oh servant of Allah, I am a Nabi of Allah, I don't lie. She suddenly realized. He opened the door and he entered, smiled at his wife and went to sleep. How many people can learn from this? The mercy of Allah's Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. After the battle of Badr, which was the first battle in the history of Islam, the Muslims got a stupendous victory. And at the end of the day, this Ansari relates that we went to rest, and I was next to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I found that for a long period of time he couldn't sleep. So I asked, Ya Rasulullah, is something bothering you? He says, I'm worried about these captives, these 70 captives that we have. And he said that he saw the Prophet was crying. He said, Ya Rasulullah, is there something I can do? Could I talk to the people? He said, please talk to them. So this Ansari, he went and talked to the prisoners and came back and said, I conveyed the message and they are very satisfied, very happy with your message. And said, don't worry about them, we are fine. You don't have to worry. So at that time he was able to sleep. Now compare with the treatment of prisoners of war today in this magnificent, fancy, modern society. The siege of Taif, this is very interesting. Rasulullah conquered Makkah Mukarramah and then he left for Taif. Initially at Hunayn they were showered with arrows and they recouped, and then finally they got them on the run. And those unbelievers put themselves into their fortresses and locked the doors. So the Prophet and the Sahaba, they made a muhasara. They siege to the fortresses. Several days later, the Prophet heard the news that they ran out of water. So he said, I think the time has come for us to withdraw. Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, this is against wisdom. This is what we came for. And now is the time for us to defeat them. He said, that's not why I came here. I came here hoping that the leaders would talk to us and we can come to conclusion. But now, if I wait, sure, eventually they'll come out. But how many men and women and old people and children, and they might die from lack of water. And he said that this is the way of doing muhasara, siege of a fortress, caring for the lives inside. And so when people talk about akhlaq, you should improve your akhlaq. Look at those people in high society, how they behave. Then we should look at what the Prophet said, that I have come to perfect the best human behavior. And that was his mission. Now, if you have a comparison between mu'jiza and akhlaq, which one is more powerful? The Quraysh of Makkah demanded that the Prophet ﷺ split the moon. Then they would believe. So he pointed his finger and the moon split. They said, you put magic on the moon. Then the Prophet ﷺ cooked a small goat and invited 40 of the Quraysh with big appetites. And they ate and the thing was not even diminished. So they said, you put magic on the food. Abu Jahl, who had a bunch of pebbles in his fist, he said, Ya Muhammad, can you tell me what is in this, in my fist? Then I will believe you. He said, do you want me to say it or you want what is in your fist to talk? And then the pebble said, Ashhadu la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. He threw the pebble and said, you give magic to the pebbles. So none of those mu'jiza had any effect on them to accept Islam. But what happens when during the 8th year after Hijrah, the Prophet comes to Makkah at the head of an army of 10,000 Muslims. And at that time they are overwhelmed. The same people of Makkah who had treated the Muslims so badly and had them leave, now they're wondering what's going to happen to them. They think that it's going to be a bloodbath. So they're looking at him and he says, "Oh people, how do you think I should behave with you?" They said, "Ya Muhammad, you are Kareem, you will show mercy on us." So what does he say? He says, "La tathriba alaykum al-yawm." This day there is no blame on you. So that means that they were basically forgiven. So almost all of Madinah, all of Makkah accepted Islam. So here we have akhlaq and there you have mu'jiza. And also after the death of Abdullah ibn Ubay, who was the staunch enemy of Islam, and he was the leader of the Munafiqeen. So when he passed away, his son, who was a strong Muslim, he said, "Please can you make Salatul Janazah for my father?" He did. And looking at it, 500 of the Munafiqeen accepted Islam. So now how can we learn akhlaq? We can learn akhlaq by focusing on the life of the Prophet ﷺ, his hadith on akhlaq, and how the Sahaba learned from his example. And acquire the company of such people. And inshallah that will increase our akhlaq. I'm talking about me also, I need that. And the other thing is that what is Allah's prescription in the Quran? وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا السَّيِّئَةُ إِدْفَعْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. Nor can goodness and evil be equal. Repel evil with that which is better. Then will he between whom and you was enmity and hatred become your best friend. This is the prescription from the Quran that has never failed. And lastly, we must show akhlaq to Allah. Because we are taught about akhlaq between us and other people. And we always say, for example, Jazakallah when somebody does good to you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is drowning in His countless bounties. And how many times in our life have we sincerely with our heart said, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, knowing what you're saying and absorbing it in your heart. Sometimes we say this without even knowing you've said it. So that's one thing. The other thing is we say, I'm sorry when you hurt somebody. And how many times we have disobeyed Allah? Have we really focused on saying astaghfirullah to Allah? Do you know something? Astaghfirullah. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a very decent person, so therefore I'll say I'm sorry to somebody. I just touched him and I say I'm sorry. We should say astaghfirullah a lot. May Allah give us tawfiq. Subhanallah, I think it can be.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن